Welcome to this special episode of the Wake Up with Gratitude podcast. I'm your host, Julie Boyer, and we're in week 2 of 30 ways to practice gratitude for the month of November. For those in the US, November is traditionally known as the month of gratitude, so I thought I'd share a simple way to practice gratitude every day. If you're just joining us now, you can head back and listen to day 1 and catch up easily, as each episode is only about 5 minutes long. It's easy to join in. Simply click on subscribe or follow the podcast. That way you'll be alerted every time a new episode is released. That makes it easy to start your day with gratitude and find time to implement the gratitude practice that I've suggested each day. Let's get started with today's gratitude practice. I remember our high school assemblies for Remembrance Day. We would file into the auditorium and watch a short film with images from World War I and World War II flash upon the screen as we heard stories about the soldiers that fought for us during these wars. One of our music students would play the last post on their trumpet, and it would always bring me to tears. That 1 minute of silence was one of the first times in my life that I remember practicing gratitude. I knew the importance of this moment to remember all those who had sacrificed their lives for the freedoms that we have today. I thought about how many of those soldiers were not much older than I was at the time when they fought for their country. I would think about how grateful I am to live in Canada. Today is November 11th, and we mark Remembrance Day across the Commonwealth countries and Veterans Day in the United States. As we pause for a minute of silence, I encourage you to think about all of those people who gave their lives for the freedoms that we have today. Think of them in gratitude for their sacrifice. And if you live in a country that is not at war, hold that thought of gratitude in your mind as we are silent together for 1 minute. Thank you for sharing that moment of gratitude with me. For today's gratitude action, I encourage you to connect with a veteran in person if possible. If you are attending a Remembrance Day or Veterans Day ceremony in person, once the ceremony is over, take a moment to greet a veteran and say thank you. You might not know what other words to say, but in this case, a simple thank you may be more than enough. If someone in your family is a veteran, today may be a good day to send them a letter or text to say thank you. How will you choose to honor Remembrance Day or Veterans Day? Let me know how gratitude fits into today. I'd love to hear from you. All my contact details can be found in the show notes. Thank you again to all of our veterans, and especially those who sacrificed their lives for the freedoms we have today. This concludes today's gratitude practice. Thanks for joining me, and I hope you take a moment to implement something you've learned today. I have a favor to ask. Would you mind rating and reviewing this podcast? It doesn't matter which podcast app you're using. Every rating helps other people to find this podcast and help them make their decision when choosing which podcast to listen to. I appreciate your support, friends, and I'm excited. I appreciate your support, friends, and thanks so much for taking the time to listen and rating the podcast. I'll be back tomorrow with another way to practice gratitude.